When you go onto your Family Search account for the first time, your family tree may look something like this, with you here in the center, and this is where your parents and your grandparents and their parents should be. But you might have a parent there, or you might not have anyone on your tree at all. We can also look, that's the fan chart, we can also look at the pedigree, and it's just showing it the same thing here. Um, so on this one, for me, it has just my father and his mother, but it doesn't have my mother, it doesn't have my grandparents, except this one. And so you might wonder, what's the reason for this? Because I know that my parents have put their information into Family Search, so why isn't it showing up here? The reason is because Family Search um, does not include information about living individuals for privacy reasons. So we like to call this the living gap. Most people who start on Family Search have a big gap in their information, and they need to fill in the information about their living ancestors back until their first generation of deceased ancestors. And when you fill in the information about the deceased ancestors, often your family tree will fill in with lots and lots of ancestors back from them. So let's go ahead and do that. So I would start by adding my mother right here. See, this is me, here's my father, here's my mother, and I click Add Spouse. And I'll type in her name. And for women, you always use the maiden name. That's their last name before they got married. And she's living, and I click Next. And this just shows the information I typed in. I want to click Create Person. And here she is. And so she's living. So what I want to do is add enough information so I get back to the first generation of deceased ancestors. And her parents are deceased, so I'm going to add them next. And if you don't know this information, you can just talk to your parents, because it's probably going to be your grandparents or your great-grandparents' information that you're adding, so they should know that. So because he's deceased, his information is likely in here already, and right here it shows you possible matches found, and you can scroll down and see these different possible matches, and you can tell it which one is him. And I know that this is my grandfather. If you needed more information to check and see, you could click here and go to their person page and tell if this is really him or not. But I know just by looking at this that this is the correct person. So I'm going to click Add a Match. And it asks me here, do I want to add him and his wife, because they're both already in there. And I say yes, select couple. And now, if you go and click this arrow next to them, you can see that it added all of these ancestors for them. And if you click each of these arrows, it goes back for as much information that people have already added for them. So now I want to do that and go through each of my grandparents' line and get to the point where I've added back to the deceased ancestors to fill this living gap and close the gap. So this grandmother is still alive, so I need to add her parents. So I know that her father's name was Ivan J. Moore. And here you can also put in more than just their name. And it might be helpful on some of these to add either the birth date and place or death date and place, or down here you can add their father or mother or husband and wife. And I know that his wife's name was Abigail Taylor. And so hopefully that'll be enough information to find the correct person. We'll click Next. And here we have Ivan J. Moore, who was married to Abigail Taylor. So I know this is the right one. I'll click Add a Match. And I can add both of them at the same time. And again, here it populated this information. And now it will go back for as many generations as people have entered in on Family Search already. So I'm almost there. I just need to add one more grandfather. And I know his name is John Leo Chittister, and I'm scrolling down these possible matches, and none of these seem to match up. And if I look through the whole list, he's not there. So what do? I click this X. I don't want to click on anyone who's not a match for him. And it just means that I didn't put in quite enough information for them to find it, because I know that he should already be on the family tree. So I'll try again. So we'll type in his name. And let's add a birth date. I know that he was born in 1932 in Utah. I'll click next. And here he is, John Leo Chittister, and I double check and I see his parents' names and I know that those are the correct ones. So I'll click add a match. And again for him, it's added all these ancestors. So now I can go back and click on me and let's scroll out and just take a look here. With this pedigree view, you can only look at one line at a time. So it's helpful to go down and look at one line or to find a specific person. But let's also take a look back at the fan chart now. And let's just hit refresh and see what that does. And now you can see this is amazing how much it's filled in just by making sure that each of my grandparents and great-grandparents are there back to the deceased individuals. You see, there'll still be some gaps, and some of you will have a tree that looks like this. Some will have one that maybe has grayed out areas for large parts of it. That just means that those are spots that you get to fill in now by doing some of your own research. But it really helps to fill in that living gap and find what information is already on Family Search about your ancestors.